What up, Devil? Sensei tuning with another video for you. Gonna do the traditional Thursday again this week. Not sure how much of a tradition this will become, but you know, whether it be traditionals or you know, maybe you'll see me on a crypto chart or something. But you'll see a little bit more of me here on the old YouTube coming up. So this week we're gonna go ahead and do traditionals again, and we're also going to do another index, and it's the big boy, the S&P. We're looking at the ES chart, the futures market, and you know, generally what we'll look at when we do these videos, just because we have the you know, overnight trading and things like that. I got the 24/5, just makes for a little bit more complete picture, and there's enough volume that happens at, you know, off hours that it's worth looking at in this market for sure. Now, and when I mean volume, I mean trading volume, of course. So briefly, let's touch on what you know, the wave that led us into this whole move. We did it last week. I won't get too far into it. I'm counting this one as a diagonal. The same, by the way, spoiler alert, this is quite similar to NQ. But I do just want to stick with this because of where we are with a level of resolution at a certain degree that could have an impact, you know, a large impact on your trading for the next couple weeks, maybe next couple days even only. But certainly very relevant to we're at sort of a turning point, potentially not turning point necessarily, but we're at a pivotal spot that's worth addressing and getting everybody up to speed right now so that you can make some informed decisions going forward if you're trading this market. But really, remember how linked Bitcoin has been to this chart this whole time, this dump, this climb, and how similar it has been in its form and funkiness, we'll say. And then again, towards the end here, you know, if we're calling this an end, at this resistance level, you know, of course on Bitcoin it's different pricing and things like that, but they're very similar, right? So even if you're in the crypto world, this is very relevant to you because of how linked they have been of late, though not necessarily as much in the more immediate present. But you know, if anything big happens, I would say that you know, in this market, it would certainly go ahead and affect Bitcoin as well. So you'll find usefulness in this as a Bitcoin fan or just a trader in general, or just a fan of the markets. So, and also I'm not going to do a deep dive. This is going to be quote unquote deep dive. I'm going to take a full look at it here. But what I'm going to do for our public Discord members, because of course we value you know, all the subscribers on YouTube, but we value our Discord members, even the free members, at, you know, a little different level. And so what I want to do for you in the free Discord is I'll post couple chart updates when, you know, once we get down and talk about this. I'll post a couple updates and basically sort of point towards what I'll find as the next good setup, and we'll talk about that at the end. And I'll keep you up to date fully. And this is something that typically I'll only do for paid members. But this week, you know, however long it takes to play out, I'll keep you guys up to date in the free Discord, in the public, and I'll just post them in the public video channel just because we don't really have a public chart channel. So that's what you're going to get this week if you're a Discord member. And of course, we have all kinds of other free, even good things in the Discord, not to mention, you know, we have our tiered memberships available for quote unquote social members, educational members, and you know, you find great value at every level, you know, from free white belt for free Discord, and of course you're going to get these charts, you get the deep dives, things like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. After we're accepting this as an ending diagonal, that will not be a valid count because of all these breakers. And like I talked about in the NQ, it's pretty much the same. Had these not happened, I feel that this would be a much deeper impulse down, and, you know, things would be quite different. However, because that didn't happen, we are in the situation that we're in, but the price action after is enough of a confirming factor for me to call this an ending diagonal. We quickly retrace pretty much the length of the ending diagonal. So to me, that's the confirming price action, confirming that we can accept this. Now, had the breakers not gone in, we probably would have an extended wave down and still probably launched off the low the same as we did here. So what we got is we got a real funky impulse, super strong one wave that just wicked up, wicked down, and then we come up 3, 4, 5, put in a clear impulse. Now, in Q, there was a slight overlap in the 4 to the 1, and I mean, like super slight, and we were accepting that. We were going to go ahead and allow that, and this is one of the reasons, because of how clear it is on this market that there's no overlap. It's an impulse, yada yada, and then we have a big old flat out of that. And this is where it's already gotten weird, because, and when I say weird, let's just say slightly off of typical. Now, outside expected because of this price action, right? Because of the diagonal, which, you know, in real life or in a real trading market that doesn't shut down would have probably been an extended fifth, but you get the same sort of price action out of those, right? We would have expected this kickoff wave, as we call it, or A, right? Because typically in an impulse, the 1 isn't gonna be extremely steep. The 3 in an impulse is always generally your extended wave, and therefore your steepest in slope. But in a zigzag, you will get this. So right away, you know, you have to be thinking potential zigzag here, and we were up to this point. You know, my chart at the time looked like that. Like for a 3-wave A, or, you know, maybe a 2, whatever. But I had this as a completed 3 to this point, not necessarily expecting a 5th wave up, but, you know, always keeping it possible. But we clearly went up for the 5. So at this point, to this point here on the chart, and this is across, like I say, you know, Bitcoin looks the same, equities across the board, the larger cap, and, you know, of course, all the indices, they all seem 5-wave off the low to me, but an atypical one, because, you know, when you're building an Elliott Wave count, how do you build the count? Of course, you're going to, you know, above all else, the count is the most important, and having a rules compliant count. But the way to really build your Elliott Wave count is always through channels. If you're not using channels to build every single count you're making, then you're just not doing it right. And you might disagree with that, but you know, I don't know. I don't know any. I wouldn't know any certified Elliottician that would tell you otherwise. So, and certainly no higher level belt in our system. You know, say purple and above. But what you would typically expect in a zigzag is you create a channel like this, and then the C wave would, you know, come to the top of the channel and find an end around equality for the A wave, which, you know, at the time, let's look back in history, we got 1-to-1 here. You know, 1-to-1 is here. We didn't quite get it when we saw the 5 go in, but close enough. Fibonacci levels are generally supposed to be rough anyway, right? Especially when you're not thinking about an algorithm, because you know, this isn't an algo play here necessarily, at least not the way we just pulled it. So this looks like a fairly standard zigzag because it's short. You know, it's shorter than the 1. Shoot, I delete the wrong fib. Let's draw this again. So the 1 wave is longer than the 3. So technically, your extended wave would be your 1 wave in this impulse. But what I would say is that we just don't have an extended wave, because, again, then we had this 5th wave goes up, and it's, you know, about 618 the length of the 3. But so let's see, what is it, the 1? A little less, of course. So in my mind, no extended wave here, which is why this wasn't necessarily expected after these 2 waves. And of course, the slope again. This is, quite the steep and bullish slope, but not quite as steep as this first. So no clear 3-wave here. And then what's another oddball is that we have flat here, right? So of course, in Elliott Wave, we have what's called the rule of alternation, which is really just a guideline. It's not a rule, but it's got the name the rule of alternation because that thing pops up in just about every count that you got. So when you see another sideways move off of it, it's highly unexpected. Now, some people, I did have a student that said, "Oh, well, it must be a 1-2-1-2 then." This would be highly atypical for a 1-2-1-2. I could see why you might think that, because in a 1-2-1-2, typically they're both going to be sharp corrections, which typically means zigzag, not flat waves. If you don't understand the difference between a sharp and a sideways, just a sideways is a B wave, is a 3-wave correction with a B wave that tests or completely goes beyond the start of the A wave. So this one we go beyond, this one we test the high. Both of them are, I would say, textbook flats. So typically in a 1-2-1-2, you would expect a sharp correction for both, and you would also expect some overlap, which we don't get, either in this situation. So there's basically, this isn't something that you see a lot. So there's no necessary expectation when you see this, although we do know that flats are signs of, a bullish underlying trend for sure. So when you see a flat, or I say bullish underlying, a strong underlying trend. If it's going down, it's, strong going in, it's very bearish, but it's just strong on the underlying trend. So out of this, we got our next nice clean impulse up. Now, another part of this is that we got a very shallow, with a shallow retracement for, each of these. I think this probably came down to the 50. Let's check it. No, it front runs the 50. So, you don't even get into the high probability area for a wave 2 here. So I wouldn't say super shallow, but in bullish times in the indices, that's what you see. That is, when you're trading any market using Elliott Wave, you have to know the traits of your market. I always say this to people, to students. You have to know the traits of your market. In crypto, we get deep twos. In the indices and even single stonks, we get, in the indices, we get a lot of very shallow retracements, 2s and 4s, and a lot of flat waves. Now, stonks, we don't necessarily get as much shallow retracements, but it happens there too. But you do get a lot of flats in those as well, I've noticed. So these are just market traits that you have to pick up if you're going to trade in these markets. And use Elliott Wave, of course. But, no matter what analysis technique you're using, you should try to key in on the market traits. And, of course, those market traits are going to change all the time. Are we in bullish mode? Are we in bearish mode? Corrective mode, motive mode, things like that. So things to think about. And, if you come over, if you join the Discord, we have training stuff. And we talk about things like that in depth all the time. So where was I? Oh yeah, this was a very shallow retracement here. This one front ran in the 50, didn't get to the high probability area. Of course, in a wave 4, you're looking for a 382 to 50-ish for a high probability. Don't get there. So when this happens, and I think this happens a lot, probably because the big money, the market makers know that people are looking at these levels to potentially get into the market. Don't get you there. So very standard 2019 S&P, honestly. You get a lot of these, not necessarily super extended third waves, but not shorter than the ones. That's atypical, and again, I think that has a lot to do with this wave here. And then we go up for nice clean 5th wave. And now last week I basically left you guys with on the NQ that we were potentially putting in a diagonal, for a leading diagonal, and then we might potentially come down. Now, I thought that could be the case because, of course, if we have a completed 5 wave here, what do you expect? You want a 50 to a 618 retracement to have something that you're happy to trade. However, I don't know if I said it outright or if you could tell in my voice. I was not. First of all, I hate leading diagonals. Well, I don't hate them. Let's just say, if you read the Bible, the Elliott Wave handbook, as we call it, by Frost and Prechter, Elliott Wave principle, they say that the leading diagonals are very rare, and they're not. They're not very rare. But the problem is, they are rare enough that you can't set your watch to them, and you certainly, if you try to trade them, it's like a middle school bully. The market's gonna just beat you up and take your lunch. So I don't typically trade off of a leading diagonal. Ending diagonal, whole nother story, but there's none to talk about here, so we won't get into that. But last week I was very cautious saying that was a leading diagonal in Q, because of this chart here, where I had to clear 5-wave down here, clear impulse, with the 3-wave off of it, and then another completing 5-wave. So what would be potentially a finished, and I couldn't find. I was going to show my chart that I shared somewhere in the Discord last week on this, but I couldn't find it. So I didn't really look that hard, I guess. But I knew that we had this potential finishing up. Now, if that happens, you might say, oh, well, this must just be the one of the C, and you're going to go down. You got to be real cautious about that, because, again, how do you build an Elliott wave count? First of all, with the count, 5, 3, 5, right? Now, the A and the C, similar magnitude, right? Let's see what their length is. Probably close to equality. Ooh, look at that one, to the tick. And then, of course, what did I say? You build counts through channels. I mean, it's just a perfect zigzag. So being confident that this was going to be a 3-wave move here and down, it's tough. I was certainly thinking it was possible, but we clearly have proven that wrong now, because this is a clear impulse off the low. And this is a long that I had posted somewhere. It must have been in the dojo. The dojo is something we do in the Discord. It's basically where it's a group effort that we do trades, and it's educational only. But of course, everybody follows along. Members find the setups based on a very high probability strategy that I've set forth, just the trade devil's methodology, pitchforks, algos, Elliott wave, support and resist. That's it. The members find them, and then I'll run the chart. I'll run the trades, or our higher level belts are more qualified guys to run the trades, so that everybody can learn this highly probable setup and easy to manage strategy, and then take that into their own trading, and make money on their own and adapt it, and exactly, and make their own method, because that's how you have to trade. You have to trade in a way that is your own. At least I think so. But it's a great, let's say, starting point, and it's super high probability. So to be honest, if you only ever took dojo level trades, you would be a very profitable trader, in my opinion. And I think the record so far on the dojo shows that. We'll probably do a public video on that at some point, the dojo, and talk about it more, but I don't want to talk about too much now. Anyway, that might have been where I was talking about this as a potential long spot, even though it was super shallow, because of just, we have the clear 5-wave move to here, and then you would expect to go 3, which we get, and then you go up from there. Now, you see I still have this A. And honestly, I still think that this is a primary, and that's why I made a video on my YouTube channel a while back, Sensei to them, that I'm still bearish on equities and even Bitcoin, even if we get to a new high relative to the previous swing. Bitcoin as well. I wouldn't say bearish is maybe the right term on Bitcoin. Maybe that's a little clickbait, but still expecting necessarily potential, nice deep retracement. On this one, however, I'd still necessarily think that we could test these lows again, even if we come up and make a new all-time high. But that's, a discussion for another day, maybe another traditional Thursday. But again, off this low, what have we had? So we've had, just a beautiful, clear impulse. 5 swings, right? So let's go ahead and throw, let's zoom in on it, and then we'll throw some labels. I would say actually here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat wave, alternation, which you looked, you want that in every single impulse. And then of course, again, another kickoff wave. Now I labeled this way so that we could talk about that kickoff wave. Why another kickoff wave? 2, you said the 1s are supposed to be, not as much slope as potentially the 3s. And we have another one here that's the steepest. Well, what do you have? You have an extended 5th. So same thing, way back when I was talking about that diagonal, could have been an extended 5th. You get the same price action out of it. In an extended 5th, what's the expected price action? A swift move that retraces to at least the area of the wave 2 of the extended 5th wave, where it will find support. It'll find support in that area, and it may even finish the correction if it's a corrective move. But in this case, you pretty much finished your one wave right to the area of wave 2. This is a wave 2 of the extended 5th wave. Pretty textbook here, Elliott Wave's pretty cool the way it works that way. And then, of course, like I said, you have to, use channels, build through channels. And again, with the kickoff wave, you don't necessarily, in a zigzag, you expect to get a the wave off of the C wave to meet the top of this channel and then come down and continue the motive in the other direction. However, when you have a kickoff wave, you always get a steeper channel for it to break out of. And in a wave 3, you draw the same exact channel. It's called the base trend channel. And the wave 3 should break out of the channel typically on volume and usually in the third of the third. Again, not as useful when you have a kickoff wave, but we do break out of it. It's still useful because you get a reaction at the top, but to determine the difference between a 3 and a C, not necessarily as useful when you have a kickoff super steep A or 1 depending. But we do get a extended third still. 1618, just about to the tick, a little bit over, right inside the high probability area. And then we come down with a sharp correction out of it, rule of alternation. Now, the flat wave would signify potentially a stronger, underlying trend going on. So we see the sharp wave, and then we have now potentially double topped, which, having the zigzag not out of the realm of expectation. So let's go ahead and throw right to the 382 high probability area. And then I know that thing's going to be short relative to that. It's 618, the 1 wave. So if we went to 0 through 3, I don't even know if it's going to make the 382. No, doesn't even make 382. So I would think at this point that potentially we could have only been in the 4 here, especially with this nice swing. And then this looking quite 4, but maybe this was the 4 and we truncated in the 5th. And then again, what happens in a truncated 5th, just like an extended 5th and a ending diagonal, you swiftly retrace that move, which we've done. I would say now this could still be part of a 4. Let's use our channels. This is called the temporary channel that projects a wave 4. It's drawn from the 1 to the 3 to the 2. And then you would expect a wave 4 to at least come down and test the lower side of this channel, often breaking. But if it breaks it significantly, then it shouldn't be considered as part of a wave 4. You should think something else. And of course, you can also draw your base trend. And if you break the lower side of the base trend channel with the wave 4, probably not a wave 4. So it's fairly safe to say, without, obviously there's never guarantees in trading and in the markets, but we have seemed to have finished a move here. So this is getting into what the updates that I'll do for the free members in the public Discord, and of course all the members, but also the free members. If you go sign up, you can see them. We're gonna go ahead and set the tone here, because we don't have a real case for finishing, a large wave here. If we finish this 5, you could say, well, it could have been a 3, 3, and then 5 down, or 3, 3 sideways combination of some sort. But in all honesty, you know, we have the completed 3-wave move here. This is clearly a 5-swing move. So this is what you call sort of your best. This is sort of your best setup in trading. And we don't like to do calls or anything like this at Trade Devils, but boys and girls, these are the trades you're looking for. So you would want to come through, look for a potential, you know, high probability area, look for a high, you know, high quality of count, very important in this potential 2-wave, whether it be 2 or B, doesn't matter, because you get the 3C off of it. 3s and C's are the best trades in any market, in my opinion. So yeah, that's what I'll go ahead and update for you guys next week. And, you know, let's see how long we are. 25 minutes. I'm going to stop here. I'm also going to actually go ahead and post some charts on, of course, it's an algo-driven market. I'll show some algos I was going to talk about in the video, but I got long-winded. So you just have to come to the Discord to check out the algo analysis. It looks better. It'll work just as fine with charts anyway. But we've definitely got both side algos in play here that are quite important. Now, again, the resistance that we've all been looking at is this has been on the chart forever, even before this came down. It's just a very significant level, probably something we'll also update in the charts, just so you guys have an idea of why this has been so significant. And yeah, so we'll track this trade, and you know, it's only going to be a couple chart updates, maybe 2, 3 at the most. I'm not going to just update ES forever, but we'll definitely do an algo look. We'll have a look at why this is a big important resistance level, and then we'll look at this potential setup and hopefully have a high quality retracement to have a nice long out of it. So, all right, guys, this is, you know, sorry I did 2 indices in a row, but I mean, just where we are in the world and in the market here, just super relevant, super important. So, want to go ahead and do this video. All right, boys, toot out.